Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we're doing an early impression video on a sample that was very kindly sent to me by Hari, and this got pushed to the very front of the line because there was so much divisiveness over this fragrance when it first came out, and I can't believe that this fragrance came out 8 or 9 months ago. It feels like yesterday. It's crazy how fast time seems to be going. This is Uncut Gem. And Uncut Gem by Frederic Malle is a fragrance that in the fragrance community, there are people that hate it and there are people that absolutely love it. And I've been wanting to smell this for a long time. I wore it to bed yesterday and I reapplied it today. Even though it wasn't my scent of the day, I'll just share my scent of the day real quick today. I really am thinking that I need to review some of the fragrances that I'm not a big fan of and sell them out of the collection. But I want to do the review first. But this is Cigar Rum by Stranger's Parfumerie. And so this is Prin Lomros's house. There's the notes on the side of the bottle. This won some sort of art and olfactive award or was a finalist or something. And this is one of his more mass appealing scents. And to be fair to him, I don't like his work, but this is the one that's probably gets the most hype in the fragrance community. And I don't hate it in the way that I hate much of his other work, but I don't like it very much either. I'm kind of in this weird place with this one because it does have some interesting notes, you could say. There's a prune note in here, and you do get a little bit of that strange pruniness. There's a dried cherry note in here. So dry cherry, dry prune, tobacco, a weird note of kelp or seaweed, which sort of gives it this on the beach feeling. But the rest of it is very bland. Not bland, but it's very common. Again, for a house you're expecting something different, it has this Nishane fan your flames, tobacco vanille, rum and tobacco vibe. It's it's sweet and it's probably better for the warm weather, even though it has those fresher notes like the kelp seaweed sort of adds this strangeness, like being on, a Hawaiian beach or something in the evening. You can wear these type of fragrances, let's say, in the evening of warmer weather. But I don't know. I'm torn on this. I gotta decide what I'm gonna do with some of these fragrances that I'm not the biggest fan of. So probably what I'll end up doing is doing a full review on that and then end up selling some of those off. But, it's such a hassle to sell fragrances is the problem. Like even just putting them in a box and going to the post office, I'm like, ugh, I just don't want to do it. So anyways, let's get into Uncut Gem. So here's the thing. Before I actually get into talking about the fragrance, there's something I want to talk about in the fragrance community first. And this fragrance brought it up. And so I just figured it would be a good time to discuss it. And that is basically this group think that sort of runs through the fragrance community, or this echo chamber, if you want to call it that. And it would actually be very easy for me to get up here and just bash the living shit out of this, because that's what everyone's done so far. People that I really respect and trust have really said that they dislike this. And so that's one of the reasons I was so interested to try to get my nose on it. Well, I wanted to put my thoughts out there. People were asking my thoughts, and I just couldn't comment on it because I've never smelled it. It is harder than ever to do your due diligence nowadays, meaning to stay on top of new releases. The Scented Devil actually did a video today talking about that, how, and he sent me an Instagram message yesterday saying, hey man, your video on Jean-Charles de Castelbajac motivated me to do this video when you were talking about, everyone running to go do the new Nishane, and he did a really good breakdown of that syndrome, whatever you want to call it, chasing the new shiny penny or whatever it is, and not really enjoying what you have or looking to the past, always running to the next review, or running to the next new fragrance, which there's thousands of them now, it seems like. And so, it's sort of a issue in FragCom, let's say, where everyone just wants to run to the newest thing and then they forget about it 5 or 6 months ago, or 5 or 6 months later, sometimes not even that long. Sometimes stuff lasts for a couple months and no one ever talks about it again, it feels like. And it would be easy for me to get up here and bash the living shit out of this. And I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on this, my honest to God thoughts. So when I first applied this on my skin, maybe because the expectations were so low maybe because the bar was set, below the ground. It was like that South Park episode where they're diving underwater to try to find the bar and they can't find it because it's so low. If you've ever seen that episode, this feels like the bar was set so low that when I first smelled it, I went, oh, wait a minute. I actually don't hate this. I was thinking I was going to hate it. In fact, I like the opening. The opening is, I'll tell you this from the get-go, the opening is my favorite part of the fragrance, bar none, hands down, okay? And that opening lasts, depending, I've only worn it twice now, but it seems like depending on, what's going on with your skin chemistry, it seems to last anywhere between half an hour to an hour, okay? And what you end up getting in the opening is you end up getting this extremely dry, very dry, spicy fragrance that's centered around the note of angelica root. Now, a couple things I should say about the perfumer and the fragrance itself first, and the house, really. Because when I was trying to describe this as how the fragrance really makes me feel and why maybe I was let down or why I liked what I'm smelling or didn't like what I'm smelling, I think the biggest thing that I will say about this fragrance before we hop into the notes and all that good stuff, the number one thing for me is that Frederic Malle, as a house, is a maverick to me. He is somebody who really blazed his own path. He set his own way. Now obviously he was born in a very wealthy, let's say, family situation where he had the money to do that kind of thing, but kudos to him for being very well read, loving fragrances, making fragrances that are made for frag heads. That's the way that I look at the house of Frederic Malle. He put the names of the perfumers on the bottle, and he got a reputation for really making perfume for perfume lovers, okay? So, to me, when I think about Uncut Gem that's released in 2022, is this fragrance by Frederic Malle selling out? Well, if you look at it from that point of view, from Malle being a house for fragrance lovers, yes, it is selling out. And the reason that he's selling out here is because this is Frederic Malle doing a ambroxanide, amberwoods, heavy type fragrance, okay? They're trying to maybe take a little piece of the pie from something like this. Or something like this. And I'll talk about why I think that is once we get into the dry down. But the other thing to think about is Maurice Roussel, the man himself. He is an absolute legend as a perfumer. He did, one of the most popular Frederic Malle fragrances of all time, Musc Ravageur. And that word right there, Musc, to me, is what he is known for. He is probably one of the better synthetic musk creators, I would say, historically. He also made a fragrance by Serge Lutens called Iris Silver Mist, which I'm going to do a review on very soon, thanks to a sample from my good friend Rachel. And so you have this situation where the name of the house and the perfumer and the image that the perfumer portrays precedes him. Okay, so there's this expectation set forward when you see Frederic Malle and Maurice Roussel working together, at least for me as a fragrance lover, okay? And so I think that the people who are let down, the way that I look at this is when they smell this, my guess is that they're let down that it's a Frederic Malle. That's the thing. I don't think they're let down necessarily because it's a bad fragrance, because I don't think it's a bad fragrance. In fact, when I think about this fragrance and the way that it sort of opens up with this very dry, spicy, nutmeg, ginger, angelica root thing, there are little traces in the opening of Bois de Rage, or French Lover for the, European release, but in America it was released as Bois de Rage. And Bois de Rage has a little bit of Creed's Royal Oud in there, and it has a little bit of this very dry forest floor outdoor aspect, okay? Beautiful angelica root in this fragrance, probably one of my absolute favorite, and I love the note of angelica. Angelica in Royal Oud, angelica in Bois de Rage, and even the angelica that is in Uncut Gem do share some similarities. So when you first spray, or in this case when I dab it on, because I got a little 1 ml sample, when you first spray, you're sort of hit with this mix of spices that reminds me of fragrances I love, okay? And that's the thing that sort of got me when I first put it on my skin. And that opening is extremely dry. It's very unsweetened, okay? So I should mention a little bit about the fragrance, I guess, if we're going to go deeper into this first. So the very first thing that I should say about the fragrance is, according to the story, this is a fragrance that Maurice Roussel built for himself to wear as his personal scent, okay? That's the story anyways, if you believe it. And I think that maybe there's some truth in that, but I don't think this is the fragrance that he made for himself, if that makes sense. I think that Frederic Malle took the framework, okay, the scaffolding, the chassis, and decided to add on to it. And my guess is that he was probably getting some pressure from Estee Lauder to create a release that is more mainstream in the collection. Because really, you could stand up here and you could say, did we need another release like this? And obviously, as a fragrance community, the answer is no. I mean, there's a million fragrances that do what this does. And do it, maybe you could even argue better. I mean, for me, honestly, I would just wear this. And I'm somebody who loves the old bottles of Aventus. I do. I just, the hype never pushed me away from it. I still love wearing Aventus. It's that mixture of, because this is a fruity chypre, and I love chypres. They're my favorite category. Most people don't realize, but this is a fruity chypre with that pineapple. And when you take the history of Pierre Bourdon, training his proteges, training Jean-Christophe Hérault, you could look at all of the Pierre Bourdon fragrances that he was playing with pineapple before this hit. So it's kind of a blend of old Creed, which I love because of Pierre Bourdon, and this very new modernized. This is like a house. This is like a modern mansion, right? Is a good way to describe Aventus. It's like everything is modern. You walk in, it's voice controlled. You walk in, you say alarm off, it listens to your voice, right? The pictures on the wall change because they're electronic based on who's in the room. I mean, it's high-tech mansion shit, right? That's the way I think of Aventus. It's a very modern type of construction. And there was a new type of musk that was used in here, a new type of musk. We've got the Musk Master here with Uncut Gem. And so my guess is, and you have to also remember the other thing, is that many perfumers actually don't like to wear a fragrance because it actually interferes with their ability to they're smelling things all day. They're testing things, they have blotters, they're mixing stuff. So when they have their own fragrance on, it can sort of throw everything else off. What if they're smelling themselves and getting it mixed up? And, it affects their work. Now, I don't know how much Maurice Roussel gives a shit about that since he smokes like a chimney. But, it's, and I love him for being himself and saying, screw it, I want to smoke and I don't care what anyone thinks. Fine, do your thing, Maurice Roussel. But I would think smoking probably, it makes it a little tougher for him to smell. But the image of him as a Frenchman and a fragrance lover smoking his cigarette while making perfumes is just classic. I absolutely love it. But still, some perfumers don't like to wear scent because it can kind of throw them off, I guess. And I completely understand that. And when you first spray the opening of this, if you keep in mind that this is a cologne, okay? So think about vintage men's colognes from the past and what they did. And so when you wear this fragrance, if you keep that structure in mind, that this is a cologne fragrance for men, that's supposed to be sort of uplifting and sprightly and they say unapologetic. So here's what they say. They say, based on master perfumers, Maurice Roussel's personal cologne, Uncut Gem is an unapologetically manly scent. Diamond hard and absolutely fresh. And it is very fresh. The ginger and these, ambroxanide and all these other, synthetic things that are in here, it does add a very modern freshness to it, but also a very vintage freshness because of that old school cologne type, vibe for men. Imagine being in a barber shop and putting like Pinot Clubman on and those type of like, spicy, citrusy, heavy colognes. modernized, okay, into Maurice Roussel's tastes is the way that I think it went. And what I think ended up happening is that Frederic Malle took that DNA, which was probably not this, and they decided that they were going to make it modern. Because even though I don't think that you could easily make the argument and say we do not need this as a fragrance community. This is useless. It's a useless release. I don't think it's a useless release for Frederic Malle, because Frederic Malle actually does not have anything that can compete with this. Honestly, they don't. I mean, let's say an Aventus bro, okay? Let's say an Aventus bro walks up to the Frederic Malle counter. What are they going to buy? They're going to buy Dante Bras or L'Eau d'Hiver based on Guerlain's, old school fragrances. Are what are they going to buy? Are they going to buy an oud? Those are completely different fragrances. Are they going to buy the Dawn, the Night? Are they going to buy Portrait of a Lady? Frederic Malle's lineup is brilliant. Okay, I think it's a fantastic lineup. I love that they don't discontinue stuff. Actually, the one they did discontinue, I would love to get a bottle. There was a discontinued patchouli heavy scent that I would love a bottle of one day. But most of the stuff that they put out, even the stuff that I'm sure nowadays is just not selling, like Parfum de la Therese, or those kind of fragrances that were initially there at launch. Carnal Flower. They do have Cologne Indélébile, to be fair. They have Cologne Bigarade, which I think smells pretty close to Eau de Hermès. But those are true colognes, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. This is almost like a cologne modernized. And so that is my assessment of how we ended up getting to this point of sort of having the scent itself. Now, let me read the blurb, and let's talk a little bit about the way that it progresses and where it gets to the point, because it doesn't take long, honestly. It's already there. This is only, what is this, an hour and a half dry down? Maybe? And it's already at that point where I'm starting to get huge vibes of something like this. Something very modern. And so when I think about this scent, I think about it from the sense of, imagine you're a 40, 50, 60-year-old professional man. Imagine you dress like this when you go to work every day. And imagine that you want to wear something that is not bubblegum sweet, right? You're not going to wear Invictus or any of that crap. But you want something also that's modern. Okay, let's just say you do. Let's say you smell all the guys walking around wearing stuff like this, and you smell the younger guys, the interns who are well beneath you, right, wearing stuff like this, and you realize that the women love it, right? And you think to yourself, you know what? I want a fragrance that does that, but I want it to be a step above, right? I don't want it to be as just blatantly in your face, because even this, the Parfum version of Sauvage, it's in your face. They've toned down the ambroxan. They've made up for that ambroxan being toned down with a beautiful sandalwood note in the base, to be fair, and there's very expensive musks in here and all that stuff, right? But still, it is that common generic smell. So Frederic Malle took Maurice Roussel's DNA of his version of a cologne, which has a bunch of stuff in here that I literally don't get. I don't get leather. I don't get very much frankincense, maybe just a little bit of vetiver. The labdanum is not the type of labdanum that I like. I like the labdanum to be thick and heavy and resinous and leathery, and like the labdanum in Le Lion, right? Like the Le Lion labdanum is a perfect example of how I like my labdanum done. This kind of labdanum, or the way that there's a fragrance brand called the Zoo, which I have a review on the channel, and the fragrance is called Everlasting by the Zoo. And that is a fantastic labdanum. Or even Tom Ford's discontinued Sahara Noir. That's the type of labdanum I like, right? This is here really more for support, unfortunately. And it's in the mid, along with leather. And the problem is, an hour and a half in, I think if I'm in the mid, I don't know. Like, I can't really smell very much leather. Not to my taste. You know me. I want serious leather, of course. And that's not going to get the modern tag applied to this. And so let me read the blurb. Let's see what they're saying. But that's sort of my prognosis from 30,000 feet away. Obviously, I'm not involved in any of the decision making, since I'm just an outside fragrance lover. I'm not in the industry. I don't know if any of that's true. I don't know if this is actually, what Maurice Roussel said. Hey, this is my cologne, and Frederic Malle went, great, bottle it. Probably not, right? They probably did some things to it, is my guess. And the things that they did to it is they made it more modernized. So let's read it, and then we'll talk a little bit more about how it plays out. So it says, uncompromising, bold, filled with enigmatic charm. Based on master perfumer Maurice Roussel's personal cologne, Uncut Gem is an unapologetically manly scent, diamond hard and absolutely fresh. Cedar, spicy top notes of ginger, bergamot, mandarin, angelica root, and nutmeg lead you to the sensual fire within. A leathery accord, vetiver, frankincense, generous amounts of amber, and a musk that vibrates with the skin. Wow. This is a scent that plays with the tired codes of masculinity while extracting their telluric force to create something beautiful and irresistible. Try using telluric in a sentence. Maurice Roussel started his career as a chemist at Chanel's fragrance laboratory in 1973, a self-taught perfumer who describes himself as an explorer wandering amidst formulas. His style is that of a sensuous aesthete, and his signature is generous composition in which he retains only what is essential. Now, I'll tell you a story that sort of popped in my head. Let me see if I can find the decant real quick. Yes, it's right here. So this is going to be one of my next reviews, I hope. I need to spend some time reviewing stuff like this, which is the stuff that I want to review. This is Iris Silver Mist, which Maurice Roussel made all the way back in 1994. And there was a very interesting story that Persolet sort of took a left turn on in one of his recent streams. He said he was at an event and he was going to get to meet Maurice Roussel. And so he said he decided to wear Iris Silver Mist in honor of Maurice Roussel because he created it. And obviously people who are big into perfume know Iris Silver Mist is held in very high esteem by many as one of the best iris scents ever created. You could argue that, but it's a very cold, powdery, floral iris, beautiful fragrance. I'm going to try to do a full review on it soon. But he wore this as his scent of the day. And he went to go meet Maurice Roussel, and he said, Maurice Roussel, well, I don't know what he said, but obviously the conversation came up that, hey, I'm wearing Iris Silver Mist in your honor. And he said, wow, you must really be into perfume. And Persolet said, why? Why would you say that? And he said, no one wears Iris Silver Mist anymore. That's a out of style scent. And that story just sort of stuck with me because, it seems like Maurice Roussel really does try and care about things like that. If I was a perfumer, I wouldn't give a shit because the way that I see it is what's actually in style now is crap compared to the old days from my point of view. Give me a vintage scent any day of the week. But to somebody that is conscious about, hey, what's in style and what isn't, I would think that if he did come to Frederic Malle with this cologne formula and Frederic Malle said, hey, I like it, I'm going to buy it, but I am going to spruce it up a little bit with I want you to add more ambroxanide or all of the stuff in the base, the ambroxan in the base, and we're going to make it turn into that modern, slightly blue fragrance, but we're going to dress it up behind this veil, this Frederic Malle veil, right? We don't just want it to be front and center. We want it to kind of, they tried to hide it a little bit, to me. But it comes out very quickly is the problem. So the part where it really will start to remind you of fragrances like Sauvage and Aventus, to me, is about that hour to hour and a half mark. That's when really you start to get more to the base. And you will notice Maurice Roussel's musk style in here. It's very musky, and it is, you get a lot of these synthetic notes. So to somebody who's very sensitive to amber woody materials, like my brother Rich Mitch across the pond, he instantly hated this because of the heavy use of ambroxan and ambroxanide and synthetic notes and stuff like that. amber woods are a huge no-no for him. Luckily for me, I didn't get bit with that bug, at least not yet. So I can appreciate stuff that, has amber woods in it and that sort of ambroxan heavy fragrance from time to time. And so if you are somebody that is ultra sensitive to those type of materials, or if you're somebody that really hates the modern style, then this fragrance is probably not for you. But if you're somebody that maybe you're just not going to wear Sauvage, or Bleu de Chanel, or the million other copies that are out there, Prada Luna Rosa, whatever the hell it is, black, red, I don't know. But if those aren't your thing, right? And you want maybe more of a grown-up version of that, or maybe you wore stuff like Aventus in 2010 and 11 and 12, and now you're some big shot executive, and you're like, I can't wear Aventus. Girls gave me compliments on this all day. I need to be more professional. That's who Uncut Gem is made for. I really think it's made with those type of people in mind. And the musky dry down in the base is very bland and boring. And that's the thing, is the opening I really like, because the opening does have that, they say, fresh, uncompromising, all the words that they're using. Fine, I'll give it to them in the opening. But very quickly, what it ends up turning into is this kind of monotone drone, right? Just sort of this flat line drone that just is extremely boring to me. And that's the problem with the fragrances. The first, like I said, half an hour to an hour, I like. And even though you can see, I did a review on Dryad a couple of days back, and I said that Liz Moore's built this fantastic, canopy where you can see through the trees and you can see the structure underneath, and you can peer through and really see what's around the corner, and it's a brilliant fragrance. I love Dryad, so much so I ended up buying a bottle. But here, you can sort of see what's around the corner when you first spray, and as it's continuing to dry down, underneath it all, those ambroxanide, boring sort of musky notes that make up the base are there, and you can see it in the beginning. But to me, the angelica root and just the dryness of it all, the green, earthy, dry aspect of it, spicy, dry aspect, appeals to the fragrance lover in me, because I don't like the modern sweet fragrances. I don't like any of that stuff. And I'm not ashamed to wear a modern fragrance. I love Aventus, like I said. And so, even though you can sort of see around the corner and you think you're going to get hit with that right hook of ambroxan, they try to hide it. It tries to play the we're Frederic Malle and we're sophisticated tag. And they do a very good job of that for about an hour. And then, unfortunately, those boring white musks and ambroxanide and ambroxan really come through. And again, I'm not a perfumer, so for the perfumers out there going, guy has no clue what the hell he's talking about, you're exactly right. I don't. I'm just somebody who is a fragrance lover, putting my thoughts out there. And my thoughts is that this fragrance goes extremely boring in the latter, in most of the end of the fragrance, let's say, the dry down of 6 hours, 7 hours, whatever it is. It goes very synthetic, ambroxan heavy, very quickly. And that's the problem with the fragrance, I think, for me. If I could just sit there and respray all day, half an hour respray, half an hour respray, if I was a multi-millionaire and money didn't matter, I could wear this as like a cologne style fragrance where you reapply every hour. Fine, that would be great. But the other problem, the final problem with the fragrance, is the price. They are asking a bag of money. They are asking for $440 for 100 mil, which, one thing I will say about brands like, let's say, Les Indemodables, even though they're expensive, and they offer those 50 mil bottles for the normal collection, they have a cologne series of collections where you get 100 mils for less money. So you get more, so you can refresh yourself, you can reapply and not feel like you're just burning money. And so those Les Indemodables colognes, I think, is probably what this should have been. This should have been put in a 200 mil bottle at $200. 200 mils for $200, go crazy. Reapply all you want. But of course, Estee Lauder is all about making money. And so they did what they did with the pricing. And I think that was sort of the final stake through the heart of Uncut Gem. Would I buy this? Absolutely not. No way would I buy this for myself. Am I glad I got a chance to experience it though? Yes, absolutely. This is something I've been wanting to, now 8 months, going on 9 months. I've been wanting to smell this fragrance so I could at least know what everyone was talking about. And now I do. And I see both sides of the argument. If you go to Sebastian's video, Sebastian did a video on this where he sort of bashed it, like I said. And if you go in the comments, there are some people who are saying, this is my favorite Frederic Malle. I love it. And I think these type of fragrances, I'm just showing these because these are the ones in my collection that sort of do what the dry down a little bit of Uncut Gem is doing. Believe it or not, I think I like both of these better than Uncut Gem. Even the Parfum version of Sauvage, which many people write off as shit. I don't think it's shit. I just think it's way too common of a DNA. But if you're gonna, this is my one blue fragrance. Let's put it this way. I don't consider Aventus a blue fragrance, but I prefer Aventus over both of those. But to me, if you're newer to the fragrance game, don't go for Uncut Gem just because it is, let's say, the newest thing out there. I would say if you really want to see his skill as a perfumer, try to find an older bottle of Musc Ravageur. These matte caps are brilliant. The musk in this is more animalic than the modern stuff. The modern stuff is sweeter, and it almost smells like you're walking into like a Cinnabon or something, and it lost some of that animalic touch that the older bottles have. I know they're hard to find, expensive, and all that stuff, but these older bottles of Musc Ravageur, if you want to see what Maurice Roussel is all about, what made him sort of the musk king for modern, let's say, musks, check out Musc Ravageur. This is a great one. I also have a review of Dante Bras. If you want to see, that's like the Cashmeran fragrance. Somebody sent me a vial of that, so I did a review on it. I really like Dante Bras. That may be a full bottle if I can find a vintage at a fair price. But yes, I mean that is sort of my take on Uncut Gem. I'm not completely let down by the brand though, because I understand why they did it. Like, it makes sense to me why they would do something like this with their collection. And I also know that Frederic Malle as a brand, they've had some stuff where there's been a miss, and then the next time they come out with something absolutely amazing. And that's what I'm hoping for with Heaven Can Wait. Jean-Claude Elena is doing a new fragrance for Frederic Malle in a couple months called Heaven Can Wait. I absolutely love the name. There's an Iron Maiden song called Heaven Can Wait, which is an amazing song, by the way, if you like metal. Every time I hear the name Heaven Can Wait, I think of that damn song. But I love the name, and I'm really, when I first started getting into the fragrances, I thought Jean-Claude Elena's work was not for me, because he did everything so light and ethereal, and that watercolor pastel style thing everyone talks about. And it's true, he is that. But you learn as your nose matures to pick out more details. And I started to enjoy more and more of his work. And the turning point for me was when I discovered Bel Ami Vetiver. That Bel Ami is one of my favorite fragrances of all time. Bel Ami Vetiver just sort of catapulted Elena into a higher tier for me. And then as I got to know more and more of his work, like Queer d'Ange, which I ended up loving, Declaration, which I ended up loving, and then I learned Declaration was a take on one of my favorite Hermes fragrances of all time, with Eau de Hermes, and then the pieces started to fall together, and I started to really love his work. So I cannot wait to smell Heaven Can Wait. Cannot wait to smell Heaven Can Wait. Say that 5 times fast. But so I'm not completely let down on the brand yet. I think this is maybe just a little bit of, not even a black mark, but it's something that is kind of like a meh for us. Again, so my overview of this is I like the opening for the first hour or so, and I really hate the rest of the fragrance. Do I think it's a bad fragrance? No. Do I think it's shite? No, I don't. I mean, I think it's just so boring, so bland, and it's like eating chicken broth with nothing else in the soup. It's just, the dry down is unbelievably boring. And for $440 for 100 mils, you better be blowing me. You better knock me out of this damn chair. And this doesn't get anywhere near that. So that's pretty much my take on it. I know I just rambled on for 35 minutes where I could have said one sentence like I just did. But hopefully that gives you better sort of overall context about my thoughts and the fragrance. So if you've smelled Uncut Gem, please leave a comment, good, bad, or indifferent. I love responding to you guys. I learned so much from you as a community, so I really appreciate the support. One more thing, we are coming up on 4,000 subscribers, so merci, thank you to the people who have subscribed. I never really thought, not that I honestly don't care about numbers. It could be 40,000, it could be 4 people watching. I'd probably still be doing this because I love doing the videos for you guys. But because of the milestone, every 1,000 subscribers, I've been doing like a special video. So we will probably do a special video at some point, but because those special videos take so much time, pulling everything out, putting it together, doing the video, upload, all the stuff you have to do, all the stuff I have to do, it will probably happen in a week or two time, depending on how much time I get. So there will be a special 4,000 subscriber video, but it's not going to be right away. I think we're going to probably hit 4,000 at any moment. Maybe we already did. So again, thank you to everyone who's sort of supported me along this journey. I've really enjoyed the last 18 months getting to do these with you guys, and I think I kind of snuck in the back door because I did so many videos so fast. Like, I think you know, a lot of that content caught some of the other fragrance reviewers by surprise. That I've done like 600 videos in a year and a half. Unbelievable. For me, I can't believe that I've done that many videos. So if you are one of the newbies to the channel, if you've just discovered the channel, I will tell you, go back and watch some of my old videos. There is a ton of content. Sort by oldest to newest and just start watching. I mean, if you're into that kind of stuff, if you love fragrance content, I have put out a ton of content, and I go everywhere. So I do niche, I do designer, I do vintage, I do new, I do indie, I do Arige, I do Bortnikov, I do everything. Hermes, all over. I go everywhere, from super cheap to super expensive. So, you know, you're going to get sort of a scatter shot of anything in the fragrance world. I'll wear it and talk about it. You guys know sort of my heart is with vintage. So I can't wait to smell Heaven Can Wait by Frederic Malle. And I would love to hear your thoughts on Uncut Gem. If you agree, disagree, leave it in the comments. And we're still small enough, even with 4,000 subscribers, that I can still respond to every single comment, which I think is awesome. We can have a dialogue still, and that's one of my favorite parts of this. I love the interaction. So again, thank you, everybody. Cheers, guys, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.